I want to talk about something I deal with every day, something that is that all of us directly or indirectly deal with every day, something that most of us don't think about while we're dealing with this every day, and something that we will be thinking about more and more as we go through this transition that we're in right now. And we will become more and more adept at dealing with every day. And you'll notice I haven't said what it is yet. Um, I was looking at a video, and I'm purposely not calling any names here because I don't want people thinking about that I'm criticizing my friend. But I was looking at a video from a friend who was talking about the issue today, and the issue being consciousness. And I was listening to my friend talking for about an hour or so, and um, and talking about the future that we're heading toward right now. And it's a good talk, and with one exception, she didn't say what consciousness was. She didn't say who had it and who didn't. She didn't say what are we doing with it. She didn't say what we're supposed to be doing with it. And how does this thing called consciousness change our future? And when you got finished listening to over an hour, maybe an hour and a half or so, when you got finished listening to it, what you got from it was you can keep being exactly the same person that you are right now. All of us, everybody. There's nothing we have to change. There's nothing that we can change, and the world will be a better place. And that is something that I call Pollyanna thinking. And, we just go tra la la through the forest with all the wolves and all the rhinoceroses and all of the deadly mushrooms and everything else that's in the forest. And everything will be fine because we are the good people and we hope for the best. And and I would say that that is the prevalent behavior in this country, in the United States. I think it's the prevalent behavior in many, many countries. And I think that we need to think differently. And so, after listening to my friends talk, I wrote a few things down that say what I would say in that circumstance. And I realized that when I start writing it down, I realized that this reads like an outline for a talk, or it reads like the outline for maybe a workshop or so. And so I realized that what I want to do now is go through my 11 or 12 steps here, which might get recombined in different ways because it's written on my note paper. And I want to talk about them now. And then in our second part, after the Catalyst meditation, I want us to have a discussion around this. Are these the right points? Am I completely bonkers? Well, you know that about me anyway. Um, but am I completely bonkers about this subject? How do we get to the things that we need to get to? Okay, so here are my, let's say 11 and a half points. Um, or maybe just six or seven. Um, so number one, um, you've got a radio. And that radio, some of you are old enough to remember radios that had tubes in them. Um, and when the radio would go on the blink, you'd open the back of the radio up, you'd look at which tube looks burned out. You would pull that tube out. You walk a few blocks. Everybody had a television radio tube store somewhere within a few blocks of them. And you hand the tube over, and there's a guy there that says, "Oh, you need a new XJ31 tube." And I would, my mom would send us kids to the store, and we say, ah. They'd hand over an XJ31 tube, and you give him the money that she gave you, and you would get change back, and you go and you stick it in that place, and the radio comes back on, and you get your stations again, and everything's fine. Um, that world has disappeared completely and will never return. Um, and you can't pull transistors out of your radio anymore, but act like we've got a radio and act like it's got lots and lots and lots of storage capacity in it. This radio is inside your skull. Um, you call that thing my consciousness, but we don't really say that. We say me. So my me, I believe, is located inside my skull, and I don't believe that it's a radio. I believe that it's me, that I'm a person, I'm a human being, I'm alive, etc. And all the stuff that's talking to you is part of this me. And you are not that me. You are receiving the me. Just like you know you're not the radio station. Radio station's downtown somewhere. You know you're not your television station. Television station's over here, or now in the days of the internet, could be on some other continent. It could be showing you something that's been stored from your past. It could be showing you fantastic images of a fantasy future, but whatever, it's not you. It's not me. I'm receiving it. This consciousness that you are receiving, I call this my consciousness. I'm wrong about that. It's not mine. It belongs to all conscious beings. There's a part of it, a little tiny part of it, that I identify as my self. And it is the thoughts running around in my head. It is the experiences that I have had. Um, it is the um, all the stuff I spent 7 years in college and a lot more of those years in public school learning. It's the stuff that's stuck. Um, and I get to share that with you, I believe, only when I am moving my mouth the way you see my moving my mouth and air is coming out, and that's revealing what's going on inside my skull. And it goes inside your skull, and you chew on it, and then we do some other things. And that's not how it happens either. So it happens that way a lot of times. It happens that way many times, but there's other paths and avenues for this information to get from me to you. And from me as a solo being to you, many, many beings, whoever watches this, watches the video, and whoever is going to be looking at all this stuff in the future, if anyone. Okay. So we've got this huge receiving uh, apparatus. We only partially use it. I've only been trained how to use it with me, with just this person here. And therefore, there's a lot of other things that I hear in the background. And I attribute that a lot of that hearing to static. I've just got thoughts popping up here and there and other and everywhere. Um, and all those thoughts are mine and nobody else gets to share them. Or I attribute those thoughts to other beings. And those beings pop out of my culture. Now, depending on your culture, you may not recognize that there are other beings that are connected into your consciousness. Um, you may say, "Oh wow, I had this really weird dream, but I ate a pepperoni pizza late last night, and therefore that's the reason I had this really weird dream." Um, you may have been taught if you have um, a really weird dream, or if you have words coming to you that those words don't, and you know those words don't belong to the me who's usually listening in on your radio, then you would say, um, or someone would say, that's a fantasy. That's just your imagination. Or someone would say, oh, you are hearing the voice of the archangels, if that's your culture, or you're hearing the voice of the demiurges, if that's your culture, or you're hearing the voices of the Jannati, if that's your culture, or you're hearing the voices of and every culture has descriptors for the stuff that you would be hearing. I believe that it's the same voice, but I take that through my radio. My radio only gets those voices. Or, or it's the voice of the demons. And you've got to go down to and you fill in the blank, the church, the synagogue, the Coville, the temple, the masjid, whatever your culture says. And you've got to get these voices removed from you in some ceremony. Um, and but instead, I believe, and what I'm saying here is that we all have voices. We need to be able to tune our radio. Back in the days when radios had knobs, I'm turning the knobs on a radio that doesn't exist anymore. Um, or I'm punching the numbers in right now to the various radio frequencies. And um, we can figure out how to sort through all of the stations we can get. We can learn how to sort through all of the um, various voices we can learn how to sort through the static. There's a lot of static in the line. And you remember back in the days when we were tuning radios or tuning televisions, there'd be fuzz on the screen, there'd be zzz, this hiss in the on the speakers, and then you keep turning, and you you get to, it's like you click into a station and you get a picture and you get somebody talking that's consistent with the picture, and the picture may not come in clearly, so you tune it a little bit and you grab the antenna that's sitting on the rabbit ears on top of your box and you move them around, and then you get a clear picture. And we can tune our consciousness radio to the correct frequencies, the frequencies that will do us some good. Okay. Um, so this radio does not belong to you, does not belong to me exclusively. I can turn it to an exclusive station, and then I can nail it shut right there. So I don't want to, I refuse to hear anything else. I was at a coffee house a few decades ago, and um, this guy was sitting with a child, I assume was his child, and because the kid said, "Daddy, um, I had a dream last night," and the father says, "It didn't happen." And I thought, like, how non-confirming that is. Didn't even bother listening to what the kid was going to say. Um, and um, some of us, are taught that dreams are just static, and and as soon as you get one, you should forget it. I I I think that there's another way of looking at that, but that's what they believe. Um, we can be taught how to tune this radio, but you can't be taught how to tune the radio if you don't believe that you got a radio. Um, you can tune this radio to your station. You can actually tune this radio to other stations. You can tune this radio to common stations. You know when when your consciousness is connected to other beings, you know what that feels like when you can be aware of another person without words, without concepts, without necessarily even looking at them. You know when you've got a matching consciousness. You may experience this with your children. Um, you may experience this with people you work with, if you work very close with them. You may experience this with um, group stations where everyone is on a particular station. I've told you about the friend that I have who is an operatic star in Europe and South America. Um, and she was singing in Europe once, and she said she hit this particular energy, and everybody in this European opera house started crying. Everybody is in tears. She is in tears, and she doesn't miss a note. And she said that was that in this language I'm using right now is she turned to the group station, and not she wasn't playing the group. She was being played by the group. And this group consciousness, it affected, infected, and transmitted to absolutely everyone. Now, we've got that ability in us. And it's time that we can use that as a grounding point for an entire human society and an entire society of all other beings who are on this same frequency. That we can learn how to tune this radio and tune it to a station that we can call, in whatever language that we've got, a world for all. That we can have this as a common thought, a common reference point, common to the point that we have something in common as human beings. We can tick off a few of these things. Gravity. Okay. So if you see someone who is at the top of a tall building and they leap off the side, you know that they are either suicidal or they're Clark Kent. There are not a whole lot of other options if you see a human being leaping off of a tall building and they're not wearing a parachute or anything like that. Sunlight and what sunlight feels like. We have that in common. There may be, a dozen people on the planet who have never ever experienced sunlight. But out of that, the billions and billions of us know what that feels like. We can know, as deep as our feeling for gravity and as deep as our feeling for sunlight and for all of the other things that are universal human constructs, we can say a world for all is that deep inside of us. There are a couple of things that came to me as during the meditation, and I realized that the little checklist that I had with the to talk about this my consciousness steps here was woefully incomplete. I want to share those things with you, but I keep saying that uh, this is an informal time for all of us to talk, and I've been talking for the past hour now. So if y'all want to say something, you can and should say something. And that means that you are going to act like you're in school and raise your digital hand. I bet you didn't have a digital hand when you were in school.
Right.
Or wave your meat hand around.
Oh,
Or turn your microphone on, as some of us have done already, if our name is Esther. And so since we have done all of those things, I'm going to ask if Esther has something she wants to say now.
yeah. I wanted to say I appreciated your analogy of our minds as radio receivers because the revelation describes that very thing. It's so what you're saying is in harmony with the revelation. And I put some quotes in the chat just to kind of give you an overview. But mind is comes in layers. There's the universal, there's the infinite mind, which is, that's the mind of God. And then cosmic mind is a downstepping, and I will go into details, but mind is dispersed throughout the super universes. And then each local universe has a mind defined by the creative mother. And she provides the adjutant mind spirits, which are levels of her consciousness, basically. And I guess you could say that God learns through us, and what our experience contributes to is the supreme mind. So it's all tied up. And, I can't help but wonder if Rupert Sheldrake has read about the adjutants in the Urantia book, because, he says he was the one that first gave me the analogy of our minds being like radio receivers. And the adjutants are broadcast from a planet in the central part of our local universe. So we are truly all connected.
Okay, now you said that this was something you were saying from the revelation. I know what you're talking about. Angie knows what you're talking about, but there are other folks on the line who may not. So, and I could say what it is, but since you were quoting it, you should say what it is you were quoting from.
Okay. Yeah, this is the quotes I took were from the Urantia book, which was published in 1955. But the not broadcast, but the channeling, the information came starting in the 1920s, maybe earlier. And it was a good 10 years process to get all this information into our system and organized. So
yeah, I wanted to be clear about you. I wanted you to be clear about that, because that same information shows up in lots and lots of different cultures.
mm-hmm.
Rupert Sheldrake is, as Rupert Sheldrake is talking about it, I know that he is drawing from lots and lots of cultures in his experience, including 7 years with the Hindu cultures, where they got lots and lots of beings up there. This like, it's amazing that how you don't get to walk. You're not walking on top of all of them from time to time. They're pretty well stacked up.
Right.
And,
But their chakras are equivalent to the adjutants.
well,
And
but I want to say there's lots of things in each one of those revelations that are equivalent to other things in those revelations.
of course there are.
So if someone, there may be people who have never ever heard of an adjutant, okay, but
Most people
they've
have.
got I'm also there's this new to me thing coming up of archons and monads and all this other stuff, and I'm learning it, and I'm seeing how that fits into the cosmology of Sharif. And no one else has to believe the cosmology of Sharif.
We all have our own points, our
The
own views.
However, there are aspects of the cosmology of Sharif that I think are part of the universal cosmology, or maybe the cosmology of those who are in this mode of transformation right now, which is not all human beings. Some human beings are born right where we need to be, and they're looking at us like, why do those people act so strange? And we will figure all that stuff out. So I'm going to see if there's anyone else who would like to say something before I go through one, two, three, um, maybe 4 points here. Um, and I want to, the last point I said, I'm not sure I said it clear enough. We can learn how to access more and higher levels of consciousness, including the consciousness. I'm not sure this is pluralized or not. Consciousness or consciousnesses of other beings. And you've heard me talk, or maybe you haven't heard me talk about um, seeing through the eyes of other beings, being able to actually gain whatever the visual cortex is supposed to be right back there. Um, but I have gained the view of other beings. Okay. And there have been some really interesting things done by some of the biophysicists who give you a view of what the world looks like, what you look like to a fly. Um, it's 1,200 lenses. You got two. Um, and what you look like to a llama. I don't know if you ever looked in the eyes of a llama. They're absolutely beautiful. But um, llamas have 360-degree vision. They can see all the way around to the back of their head without moving their head. And which is why they're so freaked out when you put your hand near their heads, because they have these incredible fish eye lenses. Well, they have llama eye lenses. And when you put your hand near their head, you've blocked out the entire sky. And they freak out about that. They've got to really learn how to trust you, and you've got to learn how to see through the llama's eyes. That is an amazing threat display. Um, um, so and Esther is telling me that horses and other prey animals also have 360 view. Yeah, but okay. I had to parse that sentence a different way. I said, llamas aren't prey animals. But yeah, llamas and then some prey animals also have 360 view. But yeah, 360 view changes everything. It does. Angie, you've got your hand up.
Um, yeah, I would say my best understanding of the whole thing about tuning in with our consciousness is probably from a couple of different traditions, but that it's, when we adjust our little knob, our consciousness knob, that we can, there's the normal range we have, there's lots of other ranges we can access with time and meditation and practice, and that partly how we have choice in that, and so what we access, who we access, we're a part of that, and so um, like one of the teachings in Mahikari is to maintain your internal harmony as much as you can, because when you're out of your harmony, you're tuning into negative deities, and they're more than happy to tell you bad things. They're more than happy to share their not so happy consciousness with you. They're very happy to do that. But that we have the choice to tune in with them or not, and that our emotional state is part of the knob. It's part of the tuning in, if not a very bigger part of that than we even realize. I mean, there's our mental consciousness, and then there's our emotional state, and sometimes those are in opposite directions, and sometimes not. But that managing our own negativity is a very important part of what and who we're tuning into. And that it's important because then whoever we're connected to, because of the network of connectedness, if we're tuning into deities that are happy to tell us we're not good, then the ripple effect goes out, and that's part of an important part of maintaining the positivity of the net is to try to keep our own, without denying, which doesn't work, so it's like, processing that stuff as quickly as you can, get it out of the way, go back to your harmony is my best personal understanding of that. So if that makes any sense. So
One, makes a lot of sense. Number two, I've come across a lot of characters in my travels, and they are um, I'd say some pretty negative guru types. Okay. Both when it was in Sri Lanka and in India, and also in when I was in Hong Kong, um, they suck up around tourists,
mm,
uh, or who people they think are tourists, and they have talents, they have abilities. I mean, this one guy was really, really good at reading my mind. Okay. I mean, like,
mm,
um,
mm,
um, he would, um, um, uh, he asked me, well, what's your wife's name? I said, don't have a wife. I said, well, who's your partner? And if you are working from the level of like a magician's trick, there are ways that they can talk to you and they can look at your face, they can figure out it's either Mary or Sue or whatever. Um, well, at the time, my partner's name was Chisao. Um, guess that one. Okay. And he's looking at me and he says, um, I can't pronounce her name. He says, but it spells, and he wrote it down for me. It's like Chisao. I'm like, that's pretty good. And then he's like, well, you have to come with me. I'm getting directed. You have to come with me and give me your bank account numbers. And
Mhm.
no,
yes, right.
And he's like, why not? He's like, I'm talking to somebody else, not you. So, and this reminds me of something that Michelle Small Wright said to me many decades ago. Remember, she's the woman that wrote the book Behaving as If the God in All Life Mattered. And um, she writes about being in contact with nature spirits. And I went to see her at um, her base. I was in North Carolina at the time. I went to see her in Virginia. And I said, I want you to contact the nature spirits for me because I have a question for them. And she looks at me and she says, call them up your own damn self. And I'm like, excuse me? you know, she said, you've got a telephone, it's got a dial on it. Call them up yourself. And I said, I don't know how to do that. She says, find out. I'll tell you how I do it, but I'm not. I don't need to be a conduit for you. And she was absolutely right. And then she said, there are lots and lots and lots of voices on the other side. She said, at a given point in time, everyone who's alive right now in New York City will be dead. She said, I don't want to talk to them now. Why would I want to talk to them when they leave their body? Okay. You have to be the one that discerns who to talk to, how you want to talk to them, um, what particular information you get from them. And just because they have access to information on you does not make them reliable, does not make them believable, does not make them. You can stay ego bound with nobody. Okay, so and you can stay and you can stay that way for a long time. And so there's a way to hear past a disembodied personality's ego junk. And if we want to learn how to do that, we can do that together. But here are the 3 or 4 things that I wanted to share with you. Um, one of them, and I'm hesitating here because this is some pretty thick information. I will share it with you, and so I have to write this down. There's a book I read a long time. It's got a long title, is why I'm writing here. Um, I read this a while ago, and it's called "The Secrets of the Golden Flower," and it's a pretty I think important text from, and this person who's writing is writing from um, a Taoist, Buddhist, and Taoist, Buddhist, and what's the other major Asian philosophy? There's another one, and
Hinduism?
Confucianism, Confucius.
not Confucius.
Okay.
Hinduism?
No, not Hinduism.
Shinto.
Not Shinto.
Shinto. Okay.
Um, um, okay, it'll come back, or I'll read it out of the book. Um, and it's very thick. It's very difficult. And recently, it's popped up on YouTube. So I will give you the link to it. Or somebody else can do this faster than me because I'm moving my mouth right now. If you just type in Secrets of the Golden Flower, you should get that in no time flat, and you can put the link in the chat box. Um, so, um, um, one of the things that it says in Secrets of the Golden Flower is, and it took me the longest time to understand this. It says the hen hatches her egg by listening to it. And I'm like, huh? And what that means is that there is a quality of consciousness that is focused on this concept that we call listening. And listening doesn't mean, well, I got some of the wax out of my ears, and so these impressions are coming into me, and I am uh, and I'm getting these impressions. Okay. Um, and I see Esther's put something in the up, and yes, it is. Ta-da. And
It's an audio book on YouTube. Secret of the
Right.
Golden.
That is not the one that I have been listening to, but it doesn't matter because it's the same audiobook that's by Wilhelm and Young. And Wilhelm did a major translation of the I Ching. I don't know if you are familiar with that. It's a monumental undertaking, and therefore this undertaking of the Secrets of the Golden Flower is also a monumental undertaking. I'm uh, not going to talk any more about that. Okay, but this one phrase in the book: the hen hatches her egg by listening to it. And then you start thinking about what is the quality of listening. When you're listening, you haven't moved a single muscle. There's even when you're looking at something, you can see a person change the focus of their eyes. Okay. So right now I am looking at my screen, but I'm also looking at the awning above my screen. I'm looking out at the car that's in the parking deck. I'm actually looking at a telephone pole that's 100 feet away now. Now, each one, if you really looked at my eyes, you took like you could see my eyes moving a little bit. When you're listening, nothing moves. The only thing that moves is your ability to where you choose to pay attention. And if I'm listening right now, I hear a bunch of stuff. First I hear the ringing in my ears. I hear my heat vent over here. Um, I can hear my neighbor from time to time walking in and out. I can hear a car going by. But when um, when you're listening, like the chicken, the hen is listening to the birthing of her child. She doesn't have her ear down to the nest. She's listening from a position of oneness. She and the chick are one. And this is what the authors of the Secret of the Golden Flower wants us to be able to have that quality of listening, to listen to and I think they say this in the text, to basically turn yourself into an ear, that you become an ear. You become the thing that you are listening to. Okay, so that was one thing that came during the meditation. Second thing that came was um, what is consciousness in terms of um, the forces of nature. Classical physics says there are four forces on a planet and only four. Um, Gravity, and they say that because it's grabbing your butt and putting it in your chair, and you are attached to it. At least I hope. To both butt and chair. The electromagnetic spectrum, that includes everything from infrared to X-rays and everything in between, and this little narrow band of the electromagnetic spectrum that we call light, and then a slightly wider band on the electromagnetic spectrum that where we get electricity, magnetism, all this other stuff. And then large parts of the electromagnetic spectrum that we can't access at all. And then it says the strong and the weak nuclear forces, but you can't see it all. You can't even follow the logic of it. You have no experience of it other than the fact that these guys, mainly guys who are at CERN, are smashing protons together and thinking that they understand the universe because they smashed a bunch of stuff together. I think that we need to have a different definition of the forces of nature. And one of the things that we need to continue to consider, not consider, to understand as the forces of nature is consciousness. And consciousness forces, consciousness entities. And this is the thing that I've been crossing my fingers and jumping up and down on my seat, hoping that Rupert Sheldrake finally says unequivocally that consciousness is a force. He's studying it, he's looking at it, he's got the best read on it, but he still comes up shy of saying there are five forces of nature. Now, the reason that this is so one of the things reasons I'm saying all this stuff is that I saw the video of my friend who came up way short of saying anything of what consciousness is. And I just encountered a video that I will try to see if I can get it real. It might still be on my screen somewhere. That says basically everything's going crazy at CERN because they're coming up with stuff that you shouldn't be able to come up with. And I am and so the name of this thing of the video is I'm trying to get my cat videos out of the way here. Is something like everything is wrong. And I am if I can't find it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I've got to find a way to stop. Okay, here we go. I've got to find a way to stop YouTube from share from every time I slow down over a video, it says I watched it. So I watched maybe 2 videos yesterday and it says I watched 20. And I don't like that. So there are the YouTube folks, and I'm going to tell them all I don't like that, and they're going to change because I said that. So here's my the name of this is Something's Off. And basically, if you don't want to sit down and something, if you don't want to, let me see how long it is. It's only 2 hours, over 2 hours. If you don't want 2 hours of quantum physics, come on, y'all have no adventure in your lives. Um, 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 there are readings, they've got this huge 28-mile magnet, and they're smashing these atoms together at the speed of light. They're seeing what is reflected from it, and everything, and what they're seeing is reflected from it. Something is really, really, really wrong. Now, on top of that, okay, CERN is going crazy. Then there's this other thing that's saying the Earth right now should be slowing down in a predictable way, something like 2 microseconds per year, um, and it's speeding up. And this is the past couple of years. It's the Earth has been speeding up, with consequences like more earthquakes, more volcanoes, more destabilizations, etc. And so you got these two things happening. And so all of the traditional sciencey guys are saying something's wrong, something's wrong. It's like there's nothing wrong. You have not accounted for this fifth force of nature, which is called consciousness. Not your consciousness, not human consciousness, not breaker consciousness, consciousness with the big C. Um, and we, the non-CERN folks, the folks that don't own a multi-billion-dollar atom smasher, can look and see that things are different. Okay. So that when the morning I was in Sri Lanka and I discovered that my vision was um, joined with the vision of the Ugudawa that was looking through my window at me, I could see myself through its eyes. I think both of us were fairly freaked out. I can say that's true for me, but yeah, I think both of us were really like, what the heck is going on here? Um, um, that this is a normal way to be. It's just that I've never been taught how to look through the eyes of an Agudawa. And no, there is not there's no, um, you might have heard of a civet, but if you've never encountered a civet, then you've never encountered an Agudawa, and there's no other way I'm sorry, there's no other way for me to tell you what it is. It's the size of a skunk. If you attack it, or if it's scared, it will spray you like a skunk. And unlike a skunk, the smell is sweet. It's actually fairly pleasant from 5 miles away. So if you really smell strong flowery scent, that's a good one. Now, if you got hit by one, you are throwing up because it's really, really sweet. Um, so um, now maybe this ability to transfer their sight is between humans and Ugudawas. I don't know. I was waiting for somebody to ask me. um, let me see. Ugudawa. And there we go. And yeah, so maybe this is a function of the abilities of Ugudawas and the abilities of humans. Okay. Let me give you another reading here, and this is with and from my crows. My crows. I have crows. Okay. If you go to any of dozens and dozens of YouTube videos on the intelligence of crows, they are considered to be some of the most intelligent animals on the planet. Yet the other day I was watching a video of the crow playing tic-tac-toe with this person, and the crow was winning. Um, and um, uh, operating complex locks, like a 7-stage lock. If you get the third one wrong, you can't get the other ones open. Um, and it said that they seem to have an intelligence at the level of a 7-year-old. Now, 7-year-olds are, you know, 7-year-olds are reading and writing and figuring things out, etc. Now, we know that the brain of a crow is about that. No, sorry, about that big. Okay. Now, with that, I'm sorry, I got to get it closer. With that, they have to eat, they have to fly, they have to avoid predators, they have to play on somebody's roof, they have to do all this other stuff and still be intelligent as a 7-year-old. They are not using their brains. They're using their brains the way they should be used, as a radio. They are in conscious communication with all other crows. Now, how far does this reach? Number one, I don't know. Number two, we can find out. We know at least as wide as a mile or so, because when crows get upset, every crow within miles is upset, and will flock to wherever the source of the upset is. There was a video about a person. Well, there was a video that was AI generated, and therefore I'm not going to share it with you. It said that a crow, that he had a friend, that this guy had befriended. This guy's next door neighbor was poisoning crows because he didn't like the crows around. And I can believe nothing about the video, because this man is willing to lie to me, and he's lying to me by creating this AI thing that that he is purporting to be true. Yeah, a person who is willing to do AI is willing to lie to you, and so therefore I'm not willing to believe them. Okay, I got one more thing to do here. Hang on. Let me finish this thing of looking at consciousness as our fifth force. The consciousness force calls into focus everything that doesn't fit into the standard model of physics. One of the things, so the quantum physicists are talking about smashing these atoms together to tell us how the world behaves. And they can't look right in front of their faces and see what's there. One of the things that's in front of your face is the moon. Everybody said, has everybody seen the moon? If you've never seen the moon, I need to talk to you. And the one thing that we know about the moon is that it shouldn't exist. There's nothing about our moon that says that it should exist. It is a physical anomaly. It is too big. However moons are formed, you couldn't form it in such a way that it would be captured by this little tiny planet called the Earth. it is one of the 3 or 4 largest moons in the world, which on our solar system, which means you got to be about the size of Jupiter to um, for gravity to capture this thing. It shouldn't be round, because if Earth did capture it, there's nothing that would cause its surface to be round. Its orbit is round. It faces toward the Earth in all of it's tidally locked to the Earth. Earth isn't large enough for it to be tidally locked to it. And then the kicker on top of all of that is it's the exact same size as the sun as when viewed from Earth, which is why we have eclipses, which is when the moon, when the Earth and the moon and the sun, I don't have a third hand, okay, line up the right way. They are so perfectly the perfect size, is that most of the time, right before the total eclipse, you can see sunlight peeking through the mountains on the moon. It's called Bailey's beads. This is Bailey back in the 1600s. So it's the first person who could write who noticed this. You can see the sunlight shining through the mountains on the moon. And that's because they're exactly the same size. Now, what figures that out? How did that happen? Using the 4 forces of the so-called 4 forces of nature, of reality. And it can't happen. They create these elaborate hypotheses of a proto moon smashes into a proto Earth, and all the debris goes flying everywhere, and it settles in on an Earth and a moon. Can't happen that way. Didn't happen that way. It happened, and it happened. You have to throw consciousness into the mix, and we don't want to throw consciousness into the mix. So Earth, so the Earth's moon is impossible. Venus is impossible. The impossibility of Venus is that Venus is the only planet in our solar system whose year is longer than its day. I'm sorry. That's backwards. Whose day is longer than its year. Which means that from the sun's perspective, it's slightly going backwards. Now, there's no model, there's no computer model that says why this planet is going retrograde, with one exception. Every time the Earth and Venus are in conjunction, Venus is displaying the same face to the Earth. Venus and the Earth are tidally locked, which is impossible. There's no theory of gravity that will get the Earth to slow down a body as large as Venus so that it would be tidally locked. As far as I know, it's the only 2 planets that are tidally locked. There is a resonance when you look at the orbits of Venus and the orbits of Earth. If you look down on it, it forms a flower, a beautiful flower. Okay, now we can't look down on it. we didn't even know this until the Russians went to Venus several times and did radar and understood what its day looked like. And somebody says, wait a minute, why is this thing going backwards? And that gets me to my last point, and I'm gonna be serious about this. My last point for today, or at least for this hour. If we're going to expand our consciousness, and I'm going to be encouraging us to do so, we need help. And the help is going to come from other conscious beings. And they will provide the help because you ask them. And I want each one of us, and I'm calling this a consciousness council, for each one of us to come up with a number of beings, at least 3, who you will call on energetically to be part of your consciousness council. They have to have some characteristics. Number one, first and foremost, is they have to be wild. They can't be your pets. They can't be dependent on you in any way. So you will be in contact with them not because they need you for something or you need them for something. And second, is different species. So this is going to be 3 species, or 4, 5, 6, 25, whatever, as many as you can hang on to. But not not so many that you lose your focus. Okay. Trying to call them together into a council. I would suggest that one of them be a mammal, one of them be a water being, and one of them be a being of the air. Now, beings of the air include insects, include birds, include flying squirrels, include, so you can get a lot of there are a lot of beings that should come to you. So when I say water beings, that includes fish, and that includes dolphins and otters and other mammals of the water. And the third aspect is they have to be local, meaning you have to have a direct interface with them. Meaning, if you are regularly interacting with dolphins, then dolphins should be in your council. And if you've never interacted with a dolphin, then dolphins should not be in your council. There are so many beings on our planet that you can be in contact with. And so that is so you can have 3 beings who are near you, who are various species, but they all have to be wild, not to be domesticated. So, as you know, crow is one of mine. Bees are one of mine. And you, if you gotta go, you gotta go. Yeah, bees are one of mine. Um, um, the you may know what yours are right now. You may have a reading on them. But one of the things that you are uh, I'm thinking now about the deer that I interact with and interacted with when I'm um, at Brighton Bush Hot Springs. And you can, when I'm there and the deer are around, I listen to them. And by listening, I don't mean I'm like, okay, what are you talking to me about? But I'm paying attention to them with the intensity of hatching the egg. The chicken hatches her egg by listening to it. I'm looking at them, I'm smelling them. They smell very animally. A lot of people are turned off by the fact that animals have a smell, have a scent. Um, I'm listening, I'm watching them, and I'm trying to be in their consciousness. Um, okay, I have that just raised one other thing, and I'm not going to say it because I said that was my last thing. So let me see if there are any other questions or comments or thoughts about this. I'm not going to tell you what to do with this council yet. Um, but if you can, when you're doing your meditations, your own meditations, if you can um, take a moment to call the being or beings of your council. Um, what I mean is, now where is it? Da-da, da-da, da-da. Um, I don't know where my outline went. But for example, when I'm saying we are one with the beings of the air, and if um, your council being is crow, or is robin, or is can't be chicken. Sorry, Angie. um, the um, um, or starling or whatever that is, then call that forth. Um, the and remember that there are some really popular new agey animals, no unicorns, okay? Um, no dolphins unless you have a real personal relationship with dolphins. And I don't mean the captive dolphins that are in SeaWorld or something that you've seen them do tricks for fish. Okay. But really, you've got a relationship with these beings. Okay. Um, um, okay. Questions, comments, thoughts, opinions?
So the
Yeah.
idea is kind of like to have like kind of pick like three little spirit helpers, and that because together they're like a little council, and that we could call them forth whenever we're meditating, say hi, ask questions. I mean, try to establish some kind of a conscious contact with them.
Yes, but I would be careful about the little and the spirit part. Um, there's nothing to stop you from having bear as your spirit being,
Hmm.
as your counsel being.
Mm.
Uh, I've I've had a number of encounters with bears.
Mm.
I've never had a fear-based encounter. I'm thinking right now back to um I've been in situations where the bear is going about its business and I'm going about my business, and we're within in one case within touching distance.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
And when I saw it out of the corner of my eye, and I'm glad I didn't jump. Um, and it's walking through I was up in Canada, and I was sitting in a garden, soaking up some sun, and the bear's walking through, and it looks at me, and I look at it, and it just keeps walking through, and I keep sitting there trying not to pee my pants. And that was that. Um, um, from that, and again, a couple of other times when bears were close by. Okay. Um, there are bear chases on the internet where bears uh, this is what the bears chasing skiers terrified. That's what it says. Okay. Now the bear is trying to play with these folks. You know, you see what the from the bear's perspective, and this is being with the bear, not being with the person seeing a bear. Um, the angle that it's coming in, the way it's loping and not doing like power running, um, that it slows down and changes direction when the skier is slowing down and changing direction. It wants to play. Now, I don't recommend playing with it. Um, um, you would have to think about how do you want to do this in such a way that it would be safe? How do you tell the bear to be safe with the human? They don't know their strength. They don't know, you know, that we don't have a a body with a full foot of blubber around us where they could bite us and we don't feel it. You know, that's how they play because so oh, there's one I saw recently where this guy is sitting with an orangutan, and the orangutan, he's sitting in an enclosure with the orangutan, and the orangutan puts its arm around the guy's neck. Yeah, like on his shoulder, like, hey, we are so buddies here. The guy's sitting there like, hey, I'm buddies, they're taking the pictures. And then he tries to remove the orangutan's arm, and the orangutan wants to stay there. So this guy figures out really quickly exactly how strong an orangutan is. Okay. And he can't disconnect himself.
Mm.
And the people in the enclosure are close to shooting the orangutan because
Mm.
this guy wants to get away, and and the orangutan wants to keep playing. Now, what we on this call and the people watching the video will do is send a very clear message and say out loud, orangutan, please stop, and send an image, a video, a vision in their own mind
Mhm.
of the person and the orangutan letting go of each other, of their distance, being distanced there. And because pulling away is a game, and I'm going to pull you closer. You know, like, oh, so the orangutan eventually let go, and the guy wasn't seriously hurt. I mean, he'd be bruised for several days.